and welcome back to Making with Miss Dobras. I'm really excited about our next unit. It's on fiber arts, and fiber arts is just a fancy way to say anything that uses yarn or string or thread or sewing or knitting or knots. There's so many different kinds of fiber arts. So our first one we're going to do is called Ojos del Dios, and it's a really easy old weaving craft, and I think you're going to enjoy that. And before we do that, I wanted to give you some ideas of what other kinds of fiber arts are that I've done in my making classes. So for one thing, fiber arts, you probably know people who knit or crochet. And while I haven't taught knitting and crocheting, that is definitely a great fiber art. And if you have someone in your life who knows how to do it, this is a great time to have them teach you how to knit or crochet. I actually learned how to do this during the pandemic. Our next project that we're going to do after our Ojos del Dios is we're going to do a weaving project on a cardboard loom. And when you take it off the loom, you get something like this. Or if you do it in rainbow colors, you get something like that you can use as a bookmark. Another really common fiber arts project is sewing. And in my middle school making classes, we used to sew these little, we called them ugly dolls. But they're cute little dolls, and it's hard to mess up on them because it all looks fun. And so sewing projects are great. If you have someone in your life who knows how to sew and can teach you, this is a great time to learn how to sew. Like my daughters and I, we just made some pillows. My daughter sewed this pillow the other day, and my other daughter sewed on a sewing machine. She sewed a little, neck pillow. I like to take old t-shirts that I'm not using anymore and turn them into a pillow. So that's called repurposing something. If you repurpose a t-shirt and turn it into a little pillow, that's a great way to reuse something. And then finally, of course, we're in the pandemic. Lots of people are wearing masks. This is a great time to sew your own mask. So this is one that I sewed just with some material and some fabric that I had around at my house. So these are examples of all different kinds of fiber arts. But basically, fiber arts is string, thread, fabric, sewing, knitting, knotting, weaving, so many things. But let's focus on our project for today. So we're going to learn how to do Ojos del Dios, or otherwise known as God's eyes. And for this project, you need some popsicle sticks and you need some yarn. And lucky for you, I just made up some bags, and these are at Lighthouse, and you can go to school and pick them up. And inside here is a bag of yarn. Everyone got 4 different colors of yarn. You may get different colors, but everyone got 4 colors. And there's some popsicle sticks in there. And there is a bottle of Elmer's glue. And that's what you need for this project. So let's get to it. Okay, so if you didn't get a chance to pick up your bag, then you have to be more resourceful, okay? So you don't need to do this with popsicle sticks. Sure, you can do this with popsicle sticks, but you can use all other kinds of things. So here's another example. My daughter made this one out of sticks. And actually, a lot of people prefer to do it with sticks. And these are just sticks that she found out in nature when we were camping one time. And so you can find some sticks. Please don't break the branches off the tree. Be nice to those trees. Be nice to Mother Earth. But if you can find some sticks or little sticks, you can use those. Or if you get takeout and you get some chopsticks, you can use those. You can use bamboo skewers. You can even use pencils. So anything that's straight, you can use. So be creative with that and have fun with it and try all kinds of stuff. And if you don't have yarn, okay, so ideally you would have some yarn. But if you don't have yarn, you can try using other types of string. I don't know if anyone has ever made a friendship bracelet, but this is embroidery floss. This can work pretty well too. And any kind of string that you have around your house, you can play around with and try that out too. So weaving, you just need some kind of string or yarn or thread and some sticks. It doesn't have to be exactly what I have. Okay, here are the materials that you're going to need. First off, you're going to need some popsicle sticks. Some of those were in the art supply bag that I gave you just recently. And we're going to need to glue them together to make a cross. These are jumbo popsicle sticks. And you're going to need some Elmer's glue. And then you're going to need some yarn. Now the yarn I gave you came in a little bag, but you might want to roll it up into these little balls, and that way it stays, it doesn't get tangled, because yarn can get tangled really easily. All right, so what you do is you take your glue and you just put a little dot there, and you have to glue your sticks together. Now, Elmer's glue takes about at least 20 minutes to glue. So you have to do this ahead of time and put it out in the sun or let it dry. I already glued some beforehand, so I'm going to go ahead and do this so we can make one. All right? So I'm going to start with green. And you can work with it just like this and cut it off when you're done, or you can measure it out. In my class, sometimes we measure it out by stretching out our arms like this from our nose all the way to our hand. And that's 1. And then we stretch it out again, 2. And that's what I'm going to do for today, because I know that I want to change colors. And so if you get so much yarn, sometimes it can get too much and it can be tangly. So that's one way to measure something, okay? Just using your arm. All right, let's get to it. So to start, you're going to start in the middle and you're going to put your finger right on it, okay? And then from here, we're going to do a type of weaving pattern. We're going to go under, over, under, over, under, over. And so I want you to watch. I'm going to go around the popsicle stick. It doesn't matter which one you start with. And then I'm going to rotate it and go around the next popsicle stick. Okay? I have to be careful. I don't want my yarn to slip, so I'm going to put my thumb back on it. And then I'm going to rotate it and go over the next stick. So I'm going to go over the stick and come back around under. And then I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to go over the stick and come back underneath it and rotate it. I'm going to go over the next stick and underneath it and rotate it. I'm going to go over the next stick and underneath it and rotate it. So that is the basic pattern. And each time you want to do the same thing. You want to go over the stick, back underneath it, and rotate it. And then you want to go over the next stick and underneath it and rotate it. Now, as you start to do this, I recommend going really slow because you don't want to rush it. Now, you should start seeing a little pattern. There's like a little diamond shape in the middle, and that's what you want, okay? That's the eye right there. And notice, we want to build out this way along our stick. We want to go out along the stick. So we don't want to go straight over the top each time. We don't want to just wrap it around over the top. You see how I'm doing that? We don't want to do that because that just makes a big ball. So I'm going to unwrap that. I just showed you that so you can try not to do it. But you want to be thoughtful and mindful and observant. Makers are good observers. They really look at the pattern. So we want to go right next to it. You see how I'm putting the line right next to this other one? And I'm going over and I'm putting it right next to it. So I'm not going over the top. I'm going right next to it. So once you see that pattern, once you see that shape, that diamond shape, you want to just follow that shape. You want to follow along right next to it. Okay? And it's okay if occasionally you mess up and go over the top. It's still going to look good. That's what's the cool thing about this art. Even if you mess up, it still looks good. But if you practice it, you'll start to see the pattern and you just follow that pattern. Okay, so here I go. So I'm running out of string, and that's fine. I don't want to go all the way to the end like this, where I don't have any left. Because what I need to do with this is if I want to change colors, I need to have a little bit to tie on to another piece. So I'm going to undo a bit, okay? You probably need about 6 inches, okay? And then with the next yarn, whatever yarn you want, you lay it out right next to it, and you're going to take these two together, and you're going to make a loop. Okay? You're going to make a circle, and you're going to put both of the ends through. And basically, we're making a knot. There's different ways to do this, but this is one. So when you pull them together, we have a knot. And now these are tied together. And you can trim off this if you want. You can trim off this if you want, but I wouldn't trim it too close to the knot because it might come out. So just trim it like that, and then you just keep going. You keep going with the pattern. And you'll notice now I have this knot sticking up there. Don't worry about that. We're going to take care of that. And now you notice I've moved from green to blue. So this, we're going to go right over our knot. And basically, we're going to hide that knot. We're going to keep going right over it. Okay? And we're just going to hide it on the back side. Again, it's over the stick, back under it, rotate it to the next stick. Over the stick, back under it, and rotate it to the next stick. It's a pattern. And I'm not going over the middle each time. I'm going to the sides. I'm building it out. See how it's coming out along this? And eventually that knot will just get covered up. Okay, I'm going to finish this up. See that? We're just covering up our knot. And eventually it just disappears. Okay, so now it's time to add our last color. I think I'm going to go with some purple here. And again, you line up the two ends right there. And then you're going to make a loop. I like to go around my two fingers. You make a little loop. And then you just stick both those two ends through. And you're just tying a knot here. Okay? Just tie a knot. And then I usually cut off some of it. I don't cut off all of it. You don't want to cut the knot because then it'll fall apart. And then I'm just going to keep going. So I'm going to finish this off. I'm going to follow this diamond pattern and I'm going to move the next color out onto the sticks. So I'm not going over the top. I'm going out. And so I'm following right along the edge of the yarn. And the more you do this, the better you'll get at it. And here we have our knot again. And so we are going to end up going right over that and hiding it and tucking it underneath. So I'm going to fast forward this scene, but you will watch that knot disappear. Okay, so usually you want to stop before you go all the way to the end because you're going to want to tie it off. Now, one thing I want you to know is you kind of have to hold on to it at the end. You don't want to let go because it'll come out. And you don't want to cut it right here because you need some space to tie off a knot. And so again, I'm going to make a circle, a loop, and I'm going to put it in. You got to tie that off, okay? And you can tie it off in lots of different ways, but mostly you want to do a knot. And I always like to do 2 knots. All right, so then I have 2 knots. And you can even do 3 knots. You don't want it to come out. And then I like to keep a little bit so I can hang it up. So keep a little extra and then you can go hang it up somewhere. So don't be in too much of a rush to cut that off because you might need it. Sometimes if I have a little bit of glue, I'll put a little glue there or a little dot of hot glue so it holds it in place. Okay, there you have it. Now, if you want to, you can add pom-poms to that, or you can add little gems or stickers or anything you want. But this is an example of one that has pom-poms. If you got one of the art bags from the summer, I did put some pom-poms in there. So you could put them there. But all right, so there you have it. There's your Ojo del Dios. And you can hang that up. You can give it to someone. and then you can practice again. Have fun.